So we're seeing All Might's mom for the first time. And she looks, I guess, what you would expect All Might's mom to look like. Also, we're seeing little All Might, like, reading this Anpan Man book, which is like a real-life superhero thing in Japan. He's kind of like, I wouldn't say Mickey Mouse, but kind of akin to that almost, but like the superhero equivalent. This is also one of the inspirations for Saitama from One Punch Man, if you couldn't tell. Also, unfortunately, All Might's mom does die. Like, not too long after this, like a couple years, I suppose, after this sequence, she is killed. We don't know how she died, but just villains or whatever. Because All Might just says that his whole family was killed when he talks to Nana when he's like in high school or middle school or whatever. And I don't think it was All for One that killed them, because Horikoshi, I think, would have just told us if it was. So maybe they just died because of the violence and the chaos that All for One essentially caused in the first 100 years of Quirks being born, as we're going to find out in like the next 2 episodes once we get more into All for One's backstory. Then we're picking up from the big sequence from the end of the previous episode with Stain finally showing up to save All Might from All for One, because, you know, All for One was just about to kill him using his glowing form. There is a reasoning for him having this glowing form. It's mostly just aesthetic. I don't want to spoil what it is, because it is going to be revealed why he was glowing in this sequence in like the next 2 episodes or so. Like I said, we're going to get like an extended flashback on All for One, and it's pretty fascinating. But we saw that Stain was able to activate his blood curdle quirk and freeze All for One in place, stopping him successfully from killing All Might. And they like go out of their way in this sequence to show how Stain figured out where All for One's blood was, which I appreciate. They didn't have to do this, but unfortunately this sequence is very short-lived. And I guess Mandela affected myself into thinking that this sequence was much longer than it was. For some reason, I thought that like Stain and All Might were going to have like this cool sequence where they team up and they do some stuff to All for One, because, you know, of course I did cover these chapters as they were airing last year. And I could have swore I remember them having more time together fighting against All for One, but no, they really don't. Like, I even double checked in the manga, and it's just as short as it is in this anime episode. Stain is about to, you know, attack him, but All for One conveniently has this blood expulsion quirk. Like, he shoots all of the blood out of his body, and then does like another quirk to bring himself back, because he had the foresight of knowing that Stain was going to give him trouble in the future because he refused to join him back at the Tartarus breakout. This just goes into how All for One is stupid. And I'm going to be saying this in like the next 2 episodes, because Horikoshi tries to paint All for One as like this ultimate mastermind genius, and he's just not. He's just not at all. Because he's always like, I'm 17 steps ahead of everyone, and I have an answer and a contingency for everything. And it's like, he does, but he doesn't. He just makes everything so unbelievably complicated for no reason. And maybe it makes some people think that he's like really smart, but he's just not. Like, if he was as smart as he portrays himself to be, the series wouldn't go the way that it does, and he wouldn't be 100 years into his plan and having it all settle on things having to randomly and luckily go his way, with like him having to get close to Tomura at this point and him rewinding himself. Like, if this was all part of his plan, it's a very stupid plan. I'm not hating on Horikoshi when I say this, genuinely. I'm hating on All for One. He is not a smart guy. He is purely getting by just with his overpowered quirk that he was luckily born with. And we're going to get more into that too in the next 2 episodes. Maybe even in the next episode. But before we do wrap up this Stain sequence, I do want to shed some light on this fire dialogue that he is dropping here. Because in the flashback that we see when Stain finally meets All Might, I think at the end of season 6, he says, if a god falls to earth and is given the frail soul of a mortal, let even him be allowed to struggle to survive. And that's coming full circle, of course, because now he is giving his life, essentially, to save All Might, a god who became a fragile mortal. And that's one of the big themes of this episode. All Might must live. Like, it doesn't matter what anyone else does. It's like All Might has to survive because he gave everything so that humanity could get to this point. If it wasn't for All Might, All for One would literally be ruling the world right now. And that's essentially what Stain does. He gets blasted by All for One, goes through like several buildings. I'm surprised he's even able to live through this much. And then All for One just comes up on him and just ends him. And that is the death of Stain. I would have appreciated it if somehow All Might was directly responsible for his death. And I know that that doesn't really play into Horikoshi's writing or the narrative, and I know that All Might just wouldn't kill Stain. I get it. But just how Stain was always like, All Might is worthy. All Might is the only one who can kill me. Especially like when he meets him in season 6, he's alluding to, hey, come and kill me when you're ready. Don't forget, I killed over 40 heroes. And again, I know that like All Might can't literally kill him. It wouldn't make sense if he did, but maybe All for One could have like did something to Stain to where he's having like this horrible, painful death. You know, like his throat is crushed, his lungs are giving out or something, and he's choking on his own blood or something. And then like All Might does something to like ease his suffering. You know, either like covers his mouth or, I don't know, snaps his neck or something. You know what I mean? Giving him like a quick death rather than him having to suffer. I think that would have been a nice touch, but I get it. This is good enough, I suppose. Also, it's just a shame that Stain never got to meet Dabi or Toga. Don't you think that that was going to happen this whole time? Because a huge part of Dabi and Toga's motivation for being the characters that they are is because of Stain. I mean, even All for One mentions it in this episode. It's like, hey, you were a big part of forming the League. And it's because of Dabi and Toga, and also him like encouraging Shigaraki to not be such a man-child anymore. It just would have been cool if they at least like looked at each other or something. You know, it just seems like a missed opportunity. So after this, all hope is essentially lost. All Might can't really fight anymore because All for One did this crazy beam blasting quirk that he's just choosing to use now, and that was like the last bit of Hercules armor that All Might was able to use to defend himself against. So now he's defenseless. He's just regular All Might again. And now All for One is close enough in proximity to Shigaraki to where he could use his gray goo warping quirk. And he tries to activate that on him, but Shigaraki just forcibly shuts it down. And he's like, hey, don't interfere, master. And then All for One's like, okay, bet. I guess I'm gonna have to just go there manually myself. But of course, All for One, the super genius that he is, instead of doing the pragmatic thing and just beelining it there, he decides to play with his food and pick up All Might to show the world, hey, I'm going to brutally murder the symbol of peace in front of everyone. Because it does fit into All for One's motive. But again, like I said, he is an idiot. And also, this is essentially what Night Eye saw this whole time. Like 7 years ago, or however long ago it was, when All Might had defeated All for One. Thought that he killed him, actually. And when he was in the hospital recovering with Nezu and Night Eye there, Night Eye was like, hey, All Might, if you continue on this path, you're eventually going to meet a brutal death. Something, you know, I'm paraphrasing. He said something like that. And this whole time, essentially, Night Eye foresaw a rewinding young All for One holding up All Might and, like, ripping him in half. He couldn't tell him that, I guess, but he was like, hey, for some reason, All for One's going to come back, but he's going to be, like, in his, like, middle school form, and then you're going to be all thin and frail and weak, and then he's going to, like, rip you in half in front of everyone. I get it. Maybe Horikoshi didn't fully workshop out what was going to happen. Maybe he thought it was going to be Shigaraki at first that was going to do it, because we all thought it was just going to, you know, Shigaraki decaying him. At least that's what I thought for the longest time, but no, it was this. Then there's also some last-minute reinforcements with the jet fighter guys from America that were a part of Star and Stripes team. And these guys have just been debuffed so much because All for One just low diffs them immediately. Just beams through them, done. Even though it wasn't that easy to take them out when you first saw them at the beginning of Season 7, it's fine now. Then All for One just shoots through the floating coffin, so that's now just totally out of the picture. That's just free falling even more than it was before. And as everyone is watching All for One about to rip All Might in half, suddenly there's a spark on top of the coffin, and it is Bakugo. Bakugo is finally back. He literally was killed by Shigaraki in the previous season. Like, he got stabbed in the heart, and that was enough to end him. Then we saw that edge shot. I'm not going to say gave his life, but he did like a near-death ultimate quirk maneuver where he like spaghettifies himself and uses his tissue to reform Bakugo's heart. and damaged lung with the help of Best Jeanist. That was enough to bring Bakugo back to life. And now we're finally seeing him actually coming to consciousness now. Right in time to save All Might, because obviously that is what he is going to do. As we're seeing, you know, Izuku and Bakugo as kids have the 2 All Might cards. That was like their big ethos. So now it is time for Bakugo to live up to what he always wanted to do. I mean, he wanted to surpass All Might, but partly it is to, I guess, as he came to find out later in life, save All Might. Because, you know, like we said, this is the big theme of the episode. Everyone is working together to make sure that All Might stays alive. Because, you know, throughout the series, we're led to believe that he is going to die. You know, Night Eye having the foresight of it and everything. But as we've also saw during the Overhaul arc, that can be altered if you're just strong enough, I guess. Because it was said that Izuku was supposed to die against Overhaul, but no, he didn't. He altered future just because he was strong enough to do it. And we're seeing that, yeah, essentially that is probably going to happen again. Bakugo is going to try his best to prevent All for One from killing All Might. And, you know, judging from what we're seeing in the previews of the next episode, it's going to be pretty awesome. Let me know what you think about this in the comments, guys. If you liked the video, please give it a like, and please subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.